Thank you so much, Mr. Nath, for joining us and welcome to the Global Business Summit.
Thank you.
So, I want to begin by asking you, there's been a lot of urbanization in the past few years, the income levels have grown, and the real estate industry has also grown manifold, in the last few years. How would you appraise the sector's performance?
Last couple of years there have been a little bit of a slowdown, but overall if you see, the growth is inevitable. Real estate, per se, like commercial real estate is growing because there are a lot of job opportunities in IT and other back office segment. Parallelly, the commercial real estate like malls and all these things, they are growing at a pretty fast pace. Residential, yes, the construction and development activities going on in all the major cities, but because of the little bit of a slowdown in the economy, there was a little bit setback, but now I think things are looking up.
So the slowdown that you're talking about, if I can ask you, what are the challenges that the real estate sector currently is facing and grappling with in the midst of this slowdown?
Well, I think the slowdown is over. Things are looking up. The challenges at that time, yes, there were bank related, institutions related, funding related challenges. A lot of our construction fraternity had faced some bank problems and restructuring problems. I think by and large, but if you see, those days are over. Now I think we can only talk of growth and the way ahead. Last couple of years, maybe 2.5 years have been pretty good, and the current government is supporting the industry a lot.
Did demonetization also kind of play its role in kind of slowing the process for a bit, in the short term at least?
Not really. It was just for a month, maybe 15 days. It was a very short term impact. But I think by and large, people, those who are working above board, should be very happy because the consumers have also got the confidence now in the industry that with the new government measures, I think there will be a lot of transparency. So demonetization per se has not affected the industry in the long run or medium term. Maybe for a month and a half, there was an impact overall. But I think it is good for the industry.
The first real estate infrastructure trust listing is expected to come out by June 2017, and everyone's expecting it to bring in a positive wave for the real estate sector. What do you have to say on that front?
Well, it will be a game changer, because REITs have been very popular all over the world, especially in Singapore and other countries. And this is the first time it is coming in India, so commercial real estate, it will not impact the residential real estate, but definitely for commercial real estate and rented properties, it will add more cash flow in the hands of the developer, which can be utilized for other purposes. So it will have a tremendous impact, positive impact on the economy and in the real estate sector.
Will it also help the developer in the sense because delivery of residential products is key for a developer, and this giving in more cash flow in the hands of a real estate developer will help him to kind of complete those projects on time and deliver it to the customers?
You see, REIT is applicable only for the commercial real estate. So any developer which is having both portfolios, commercial and residential, will have a tremendous advantage. You see, you can go and list your REITs and raise money, which is practically very cheap source of money, and there's no liabilities attached, and utilize that money for finishing your ongoing residential projects. So, but somebody who's only into residential will get stuck because REIT will not give any benefit to them. And somebody only with commercial real estate will be flooded with money because he can have a lot of listings done. So I see a great future for real estate because of the REIT and various other new measures that the government is taking. I think it will bring in a lot of transparency and a lot of cash flow in the hands of the developers to finish their pending inventories.
Mr. Nath, Logix has a varied portfolio which comprises of affordable housing, premium housing, commercial spaces. So which of these avenues you think will be the key growth driver for the company in the years to come?
See, I think we will maintain a balanced portfolio between residential and commercial. At one point of time, there was a slowdown in the IT, the commercial was not picking up. Now then there was a slowdown in the residential. So we have taken a decision as a group per se that we'll maintain a balanced portfolio. So we'll be doing about 40-50% of residential and about 50-60% of commercial, which I think they're the growth engines, and we must maintain a balanced portfolio.
As someone who's seen the evolution of the industry over the years, Can you talk about some of the developing trends that you see in the future that would be the highlight of the industry?
Now, the way the market is evolving, especially for the residential sector, bringing in customer confidence in the product or in the developer is very essential. The days are gone when people used to take consumers for a ride. I think the most evolving trend will be the fast delivery. See, ultimately, the cost of construction and the development is going every day. So the key challenge now, right now, is raising cheaper capital and delivering the product at a very right time. So we cannot afford to have more delays, because see, every single day of delay adds value or cost to the developer. So I think gradually now the industry is evolving for modern technologies, new methods of construction, raising cheaper capital through various means, either through equity or banks' participations, and faster delivery. I think that's the key. And beyond that, I think marketing will have no value unless you can have confidence in the mind of a end user.
Though government has introduced the rate as the reform, but is it also working towards, as you said, that the need of the hour is attaining cheap financial capital that the developers can use and the use of technology? Is there a push on that front as well from the government?
Yes, definitely the government, because now the government the banks are flooded with money, and they are looking at right avenues and the right developers to deploy. I think the cost of borrowing from banks is going down, and with the GST and all the new methods and all the new bills coming in, whether it is RERA or this thing, will give a lot of confidence in the mind of the consumer. And I feel that yes, definitely there's a very strong push from the central government. It's on their priority to revive the real estate sector, which definitely will provide housing for a lot of people.
Can you talk about the change in perhaps the buying pattern of the consumers or investors, because that has gone through a tremendous shift currently?
See, for the residential now, consumers are looking at ready apartments or apartments which can be delivered in 3 to 6 months. People are not ready to invest in a greenfield project just on the basis of promises. So I feel that yes, definitely mid-segment housing will see a major thrust. So any apartment in the range of 50 lakhs to 1 crore rupees in the tier 1 and tier 2 cities will see a very strong thrust. And that target is achievable provided it is scientifically planned and delivery is done on time.
Can you talk about the startup action in the real estate sector? I mean, can small players actually coexist with the larger ones anymore?
Why not? See, real estate is like you can do 50 apartments or 10 apartments. Now with the real estate regulator bill coming in, anybody who can be very transparent and maintain the things according to those regulations can definitely come in the development sector. It is a very good sector to be in, provided we can be very transparent in the overall situations.
How significant is the green buildings or the smart building, buildings or colonies as a sector for developers? Are they focusing on something like this?
Yes, definitely. A lot of state governments are giving a lot of incentive to the developers if they're doing the green buildings. It is helpful. It helps the end user. Your cost of electricity, your cost of water, your cost of air conditioning, everything goes down. So I feel yes, definitely for the new residential colonies coming up, a lot of developers are focusing on green buildings. It is also a statutory requirement.
How significant is the impact of global, political and economic changes on the Indian real estate market? Because obviously, you can see the impact immediately on the stock market, but when it comes to real estate, does that impact trickle down there as well?
Not really. The global political or any other turmoil will not impact the real estate. See, real estate is more economy driven. So if the fundamental and the sentiments in the Indian economy is strong, positive, I think real estate is there to stay. Global factors have very little to play. Global factors affect your economic sentiments, but definitely it does not impact real estate directly.
How would you really rate the budget this year when it comes to perhaps provisions for your sector?
It is pretty nice. The government has done quite a lot, and I think gradually every budget, our finance minister is definitely taking care of the real estate sector, and we see that the next budget will see, because now we see your GDP growth has taken off, it's stabilized, demonetization effect is over. So I feel that this budget is definitely, the new budget is going to be much
Even
more
more.
aggressive and much more advantage for the real estate sector.
Thank you so much, Mr. Nath, for joining us. Pleasure.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sanjay, for joining us, and welcome to the Global Business Summit. So, especially talking about the corporate category, food for employees is no longer just, as we were discussing, just an administrative issue anymore. It's much more than that. It's providing a service to the employee at the workplace, which he would like to avail, which he would like to look forward to. And is that the way perhaps the thinking amongst corporates is also growing?
There is an interesting link between the changing demographics and food. Okay, over the summit you heard this whole thing about younger India, a more aspirational India. And there's a very interesting linkage that has with food as a category, because you see more younger people coming into the workforce, and the infrastructure being what it is and lifestyles and pressure being what they are, you probably have only one real meal in the day, which is your lunch. And where do you have it? Not at your home, but in the office. So given that, it's so important to ensure that employees eat healthy, and if possible, you can service a breakfast in the office, even better, because then you bring them into the office for longer hours, and they stay productive. So if that has to happen, as you said, it's no longer an admin agenda or an HR agenda, it's a CEO agenda. You want your people to be productive, you want them to come to work and feel good about it, and you want to make sure that one of the ways that happens is if you serve good food. So that's the aspiration we will cater to, and you will see in the last 3 years the kind of change food as a category has seen in corporate offices is phenomenal. Means there are companies which actually serve, some of our customers serve spa food, they serve organic food for lunch. There are some that have a concept that if an employee has a need to satisfy his hunger, it should be within 10 meters of his work desk. Now with those kind of KPIs, we deliver food solutions to corporates. So you can see how the landscape is changing and the impact this will have, which is why it's so exciting to be present.
I'd like to welcome all of you to Realty 2020, gearing Indian realty sector for growth. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome on stage our panelists. Please put your hands together.
We'll start with you, Shaktiji. In the last decade, India has built more organized housing stock and more organized office than it ever has. And it's been done by you and your community of developers. But the word developer still, we are wary of that creature. Oh, developer, bach ke rehna, be careful. What do we need to do so that this perception of this creature called the developer changes in 2020?
I think the perception got a little bad only because of the slowdown in the residential sector. If you see, commercial and office space segment has always been very positive, and there are hardly any slowdowns or delayed projects or something like that. So I think now onward, it is more of a confidence building measure that our community needs to do in terms of handling the customers and head for speedy delivery and sort out all the pending issues. It's nothing to do with the delays what has already happened now. Now onwards, we need to be very positive in deliveries and developing that confidence in the mind of customers. That is the only thing which will really change the whole scenario.
Sanjay, I'll come to you next. What you've done at PNB Housing is pretty amazing. Given that real estate is a specialist asset class and banks tend to be generalistic in their lending, is PNB Housing the way other state-owned banks should play this sector?
One is that no longer we are a public sector company. Even when we were a public sector company, let me tell you that nowhere it has been written that a public sector company has to behave in a different manner than a private sector company. And that is exactly what we did when we did a change management in 2010. We brought in a professional team, and that brought about a lot of positivity amongst our customers, our developer partners, and the country as a whole. From a 300 crore valued company, it is today at about $2.5 billion. We have shown that how a public sector institution which was 100% owned by a public sector bank can bring about a change. If this model has worked here, this model can also work elsewhere.
Sanjay Grewal now. What is it that you are telling? And foreign capitals had a checkered history in India. What is it that, and pretty blue chip investors, what is it that you guys are telling them? And what is it that they are believing? And what is it that you believe that is attracting foreign capital to this exciting sector of ours?
First and foremost, the opportunity landscape in real estate remains huge. Now, if you look at providers of capital, if you look at the banks, there's a regulatory arbitrage for providers of capital such as PNB, such as us, other sort of large wholesale-focused NBFCs or housing finance companies, because banks are restricted to lend to the real estate sector on the types of financings that they can do. They have sector limits, so on and so forth. They are, as we all know, constrained because of capital. They have NPA issues. So on the one hand, you have a large opportunity landscape in the real estate sector. On the other hand, you have very few providers of capital. So that's exactly what I tell my investors, that we have a huge sort of runway for the next 3-4 years to scale.
Amit, let me come to you. What is the domestic investor saying today to you? Does he want to play with you guys, or does he still think that he knows RE better than you do and he wants to play on his own?
I think the era of direct investment is over. And if you look at the history, last 7-8 years, we have been seeing investors have been gradually vanishing from the market, because they have realized that the supply increasing, their end product will not give them the desired returns. What they expect from you, that whatever you committed to them while raising money, please deliver on every aspect. They are not willing to lose money because of your carelessness and casual approach. So I think the world has changed. Consolidation has begun, and the investors have reduced. User remains. User is not in an urgency to buy. He is not willing to take a completion risk. And so we have to accept the new reality.
Let me come to Alok next.
We should look at some of the numbers. So in 2007, India has 35 million square feet of office area leased. That was 2007. And after 9 years, this 35 million fell to about 22, 23 in 2008. And India has touched a peak again in 2016 to 35 million square feet. So what it shows is that there's a huge office demand. So it was a shortage of supply which ensured that office market started doing well. And what developers are doing, because office market is looking great, some of them, whoever can, they are building a lot of supply. So I think 2019, 2020, we can see a mismatch between supply and demand on the reverse side. So there's more supply and less demand. So this is a scenario we think about, office market.
Vishal, I'll come to you next. The shining star in the region from a REIT development point of view is Singapore. What is it that we can do to ensure that, if not all, but some of that success we can replicate in India?
In terms of REITs, I think in terms of regulations, we are more or less there. 2-3 parts which we are missing. One, we still have to see good REIT managers. It's very easy to say that I've made the regulation, but actually only when you have good managers and they've bought the assets and run the assets, improved the assets, delivered dividends, delivered higher yields, will you really see a lot of sustained interest from foreign investors. The other thing is pricing is still very untested. My belief is that even now the private market continues to offer you better valuation than the public market will, if you factor in all the taxes and all the other friction, and of course things like management fee and other expenses of running the REIT. So that's something that we still have to see, and that will determine when the time will be right. And if you see the US regulations or the Australian regulations or the Singapore regulations, the REITs really took off when developers gave a good deal to the investors. And I don't think India is there at that point right now, because there's still too much demand. There are few assets and there are quite a few people chasing those assets. So once either the supply of assets has to go up substantially, which I don't see happening, in a short span of time, or the nature of the investor has to change. You have to see, you have to see investors looking for higher returns, and then hence pricing would correct.
Talking of building blocks, Mukesh, I'll come to you. 2020. What is RERA going to do for me as a consumer, for all the investors sitting here, and for people like Shakti ji who are developers?
Government decided let's have some regulation. We have now regulation. But I see personally, yes, in long term, 3 years down the line, we are talking 2020, this will have a lot of positive impact as far as consumers are concerned. This will bring a lot of transparency, because they'll come to know, like, okay, what is the status of the project. Before entering into the project, they are aware of, okay, what is the size, what is I am going to get as carpet area, what is I am going to, when delivery is going to happen, what is the status of all the approvals, because launch is not permitted without getting all the approvals in place. So, from the point of view of customer, I look at like a lot of positive from RERA. In terms of developer long term, again, this is going to help them, because now they have to keep 70% money, whatever they are collecting from the customer, for that specific project, which is to be utilized for construction development of that specific project. So that will help them that, okay, whatever money they are collecting, let's invest that money into that specific project, which will ultimately, delivery will happen, execution will happen, which is in the interest of, at the end of the day, all of us sitting here, whether it is developer, investor, customer, bankers, everybody in long term is going to be benefited out of it.
Let me come to Pratap. So the question is very simple, Pratap. 2020, where is the smart city going to be, and what will it look like?
So you're going to see cities like, now currently the way the cities which are really showing good promise of development include the likes of Surat, Bhubaneswar, Visakhapatnam. Now these are obviously cities where they are more manageable, because they are not yet monoliths like Delhi or Mumbai or Chennai. However, there's one more thing, that there are 7 or 8 greenfield cities planned on Delhi-Mumbai Industrial Corridor. We might see them as well-planned cities, where every breakdown that takes place in a city doesn't mean digging on the road, but actually going down under and fixing the utilities and so on and so forth. So I think our visions of a smart city, which probably are, with the help of the movies that create a different picture, really speaking, they mean convenience for the customer and the pride for the citizen.
Rajiv, 2020, what should investors do and what should developers do so that they look superstars, like superstars in 2020?
Well, I think the commercial sector, as well as the affordable housing, and the logistics sector, the storage logistics sectors, hold a large potential. But any entry strategy for the developer or the investor should be determined not only by the external environment, but also a good understanding of who they are, what they have done, and what is their pedigree. Now take the example of commercial real estate sector. Commercial looks lucrative from the pricing point of view, and given that the REIT is going to come very soon, and we have seen globally that whenever a public market gets created for any asset class, the capital values go up. So, and India is not going to be any different. There's going to be a bit of short-term distortion. On the housing side, the two major factors which are the causes for the slowdown is a deficit of trust between the developer and the customer. And the second reason has been the affordability. So when you talk about affordable housing, whatever the union government is doing in terms of the budgetary SOPs and Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, a lot of governments like the government of UP as well as in Haryana, they have created their own affordable housing schemes. But I think these affordable housing schemes are going to remain on paper to a large extent unless they are backed with a creation of physical and social infrastructure. The third sector, which I think is going to perhaps give supernormal returns for the investors as well as developers, is the storage logistics space. I think the entire sector is set to change with the implementation of GST. The entire logistic map of India is going to be rewritten.
Thank you for joining us. Thank you, panelists.